2 years after breaking up with my ex-girlfriend, I unexpectedly faced her as an opponent in a debate competition. When she declared that love lies in fleeting moments, I completely lost my composure. I confronted her, "Is this why you broke up with me?" One Jacqueline was my high school classmate and former girlfriend. I always thought that after our breakup, people from two different worlds like us would never cross paths again. I never expected we'd meet again as opponents facing each other. When the school approached me about this debate competition, I initially refused. I'd recently taken on an internship and was handling a case. But the law school dean told me each winner would receive a $3,000 prize. The Legal Aid Society my roommate and I founded had just started. My roommate urged me to compete, saying this money was crucial for us. I couldn't refuse. So I agreed. I never expected to see Jacqueline here again. It was a major intercollegiate debate competition. When I found out we were matched against Jacqueline S. School, I prayed I wouldn't run into her. Yet here we were facing each other across such an awkward debate topic. The moment I spotted Jacqueline backstage, my heart suddenly sprang to life, pounding violently in my chest. Before she could see me, I turned and walked away. I found my roommate to discuss it with him. "I'm not feeling well today, so I want to go on stage and take my place." He looked up, his gaze puzzled, scanning me from head to toe before frowning and asking in return, "Jax, you look perfectly fine to me, and you know me, I can't debate as well as you. The prize money depends on you. You can't back out now." I wanted to say something more to persuade him when suddenly our coach's voice came from behind me. "Jackson, come here. I need to talk to you." Our coach was a tall, burly man with a deep, booming voice. I had just stopped in front of the coach when another voice reached my ear. "That asked the coach. He just called your name." The coach looked puzzled in that direction, saying he hadn't called for her. My palms grew sweaty and my heartbeat quickened. I could feel her gaze on my back. I restrained my emotions, forcing myself not to turn around to look at her. Praying she wouldn't notice me, I desperately tried to focus on the coach's instructions, but the stare from behind was impossible to ignore. I had no choice but to ask the coach to repeat everything. Looking rather pathetic, 2 years have passed, and I still can't get her out of my mind. How embarrassing, Jackson. I know she noticed me. When I left, I walked past her indifferently, using cold detachment to mask what little pride I'd left. Jacqueline casually lifted her eyelids in my direction, the corner of her lips curling slightly, as she cast me an aloof glance. Her deep dark eyes held a defiance, unlike her younger self, tinged with disappointment. Suddenly, I wanted to ask her, why was she looking at me like that, when she was the one who dumped me? Jacqueline Jackson. Every time someone calls my name, I instinctively think of her. In the past, Jacqueline would lean on my desk, gaze in my direction, and call my name over and over again. When I responded, she would always laugh and say she was calling my name, she was calling her own. Her laughter seemed to carry honey, and I would inexplicably drown in it every time. It's been 2 years, already such a long time. The classmate who called Jacqueline over was standing beside her. She said, "What a coincidence, both your names are pronounced Jacqueline Jackson." I froze for a moment. Jacqueline hummed in agreement and said, "Yeah, what a coincidence, probably some karmic connection." The classmate glanced at me. Awkwardly, she tugged at Jacqueline's sleeve. Jacqueline turned and walked backstage without another word, the atmosphere gradually growing heavy. The classmate came to apologize to me, and I shook my head, telling her it was all right. "What's the matter? Taking a liking to that girl?" My roommate patted my shoulder and glanced in that direction. I stared blankly at Jacqueline's retreating figure until my roommate called out, snapping me out of my daze. I quickly pulled him away, hoping desperately we wouldn't be discovered. In the competition venue, looking at that debate topic suddenly felt somewhat ridiculous. Is the beauty of love found in fleeting moments or eternal devotion? Jacqueline's team was the affirmative side, arguing love's beauty lies in transient moments. We were the negative team, maintaining love's beauty resides in permanence. So are we who pursue eternity, doomed to lose to those who only care about momentary sparks. I don't believe it, so I must win this match. Watching Jacqueline speaking so eloquently across from me suddenly left a bitter taste in my heart. Does all that we've been through together really just amount to a fleeting moment for her? I know full well how unprofessional I'm being right now, caught up in emotions, but emotions have always been the hardest thing to control. Love at first sight is just the beginning. If a couple stays together, taking their time, without rushing or panicking, gradually adjusting to each other, they will eventually stay together forever. So why did you suddenly block me? Why couldn't I find you anywhere? If we had just stayed together, everything would have worked out in the end. Disappearing, suddenly vanishing without a trace, was that fun for you? I looked at Jacqueline, wondering what she would say. Ordinary days can't reflect true love. I grew somewhat agitated, my heart suddenly tightening as I interrupted her. I wanted to know her answer, yet inexplicably felt pained upon hearing it. So would you break up with your boyfriend just because your love became too ordinary? The hand resting on the table gradually clenched into a fist across from me. There was a brief silence, as if the other person had snapped back to reality before quickly responding. May our opposing debater please frame questions from a constructive perspective rather than focusing on personal matters concerning our team members. The debate competition ended. The opposing side, the team I was on, had won. Yet I felt no joy from the victory, only an overwhelming heaviness in my chest. They planned to go out for dinner to celebrate. In the evening, I was really in the mood, but my roommate dragged me there anyway. It was a bustling hot pot restaurant filled with laughter and lively chatter that reached my ears. The atmosphere lifted my spirits a little, until I spotted Jacqueline through the steam. Sitting across from her was a man, a familiar one. My body shivered slightly, not as if I were in a steamy hot pot restaurant, but rather like that day in the freezing snow. I remember clearly how Jacqueline threw herself into his arms like a little bird that day. On Christmas Eve during my freshman year, I secretly went to Jacqueline's house to surprise her. It was also selfish of me. I wanted to spend our first Christmas together. The snow fell in fine scattered flakes that night as I stood in the snowdrifts clutching a large bouquet of red roses, watching Jacqueline throw herself into the arms of a stranger and loop her arm through his. The wind and snow lashed against my face, stinging my cheeks and leaving my eyes dry and sore. Suddenly, I felt a chill today in an attempt to look dashing. I hadn't worn a down jacket, just to coat the warmth I mustered from sheer passion earlier seemed to have completely faded. What followed was an endless biting cold. They really did look perfect together. One is handsome and wealthy, the other is beautiful and charming, a perfect match indeed. A single watch on that man's wrist was worth several months of my part-time wages. I clutched the dress I was carrying in my hand. It had cost me hundreds of dollars, saved up through long hours of part-time work, but to Jacqueline, it was nothing more than a cheap, unworthy dress. It wasn't until I returned home like a walking corpse that I suddenly snapped back to reality. How could I suspect Jacqueline without even asking her? I opened my phone, typing and deleting repeatedly, unsure how to explain that I doubted her. When I finally organized my thoughts and sent the message, all I got was a glaring red exclamation mark. My heart froze for an instant, refusing to believe it. I kept calling her only to hear the shut-down tone. My fingers trembled slightly as I suddenly remembered what my high school roommate had warned me. How could Jacqueline, a rich girl from such a wealthy family, ever truly fall for a poor boy like you? She'll definitely end up with someone of her own status. You'd better watch out. Don't get in too deep, while she walks away unscathed. Truth be told, I knew from the very beginning Jacqueline only approached me because of a bet. For that day, I overheard Jacqueline's boastful voice as she made a wager with her friends to win me over. I'm definitely going to win, Jackson. Over, just you wait and see. I didn't even turn my head in their direction. I didn't care whether I became someone's bet because I didn't like her. Later when I dated Jacqueline, I never overthought it either because I could feel that she genuinely liked me. I think this is enough. Now, it seems I have to face this issue again. Please return this dress, thank you. Forget it, don't return it. I'll keep it, sorry for the trouble. Just a little more time. I just need a little more time, that's all. Jax, let us go. My roommate shoved me, and I staggered before snapping back to reality. Someone helped steady me, thanks. When I looked up, it was that unfamiliar man, the words of gratitude stuck in my throat, neither coming out nor staying down. Not saying anything would be rude since he helped me the moment I finished speaking, I quickly walked away. Behind me came Jacqueline's voice. Jackson, do you have to be like this? She rushed over to block my path, still the same girl from my memories, though time had stripped away her youthful naivety. I didn't know how to respond, so I maintained the aloof demeanor I'd shown everyone else. Suddenly Jacqueline grabbed my wrist, trying to pull me outside. I was reluctant to break free from her embrace, just as I had been reluctant to expose her back then. Anna, suddenly rushing out, was unexpected. Jackson, didn't you just come to celebrate? Why are you leaving now? She held on my shoulder, her tone soft, almost coquettish. But I felt inexplicably irritated. I pulled my arm away without acknowledging her, giving my roommate a look to signal him to get her out of the way. Is she your girlfriend? Jacqueline let go of my hand and said sorry. Anna blushed beside them, standing there bashfully without uttering a word of denial. No, I'm not close with her. Anna and I were on the debate team together, and she was always trying to be overly attentive, but I made my disinterest perfectly clear. I didn't expect her to be so boundary blind this time. Anna's face instantly turned deathly pale. I didn't want to embarrass a girl in front of so many people, but I felt that if I didn't do something now, I'd surely regret it later. We sat together on the bench outside the door and talked very calmly. I felt like the barrier between Jacqueline and me had suddenly been broken. It's not that awkward anymore. How have you been these past 2 years? Congratulations on winning the competition. We spoke simultaneously, exchanging pleasantries like ordinary classmates from the past. After that one sentence, neither of us spoke again. We sat side by side, the evening breeze brushing our faces, unsure how much time had passed. I wondered if I never spoke again, would time freeze in this very moment. I even selfishly prayed that Jacqueline wouldn't speak, either wouldn't say those words that would make me feel awful. If I hadn't called out to you, were you planning to never speak to me again in this lifetime? The moment Jacqueline spoke for an instant, I thought had we returned to 2 years ago. Her voice carried that natural, uniquely hers coquettish tone, completely different from the mocking laughter of our first meeting. I lowered my eyes and shook my head, then realizing we were sitting side by side, I finally spoke a loud no. Actually, when I saw you yesterday, I was just a little angry, but after thinking it over last night, I realized it wasn't necessary. My fingers resting on my lap trembled slightly. It seems that between us, Jacqueline was always the one to let go first. Only I remained haunted by what happened back. Then only I kept drowning myself in the memories of the past. You don't like hot pot. Why did you come here to eat? Jacqueline had been spoiled since childhood, and her stomach was raised just as delicately. She never touched hot pot, no matter what kind of broth it was. It always made her feel unwell. I didn't know before until one time she accompanied me for hot pot, and I only realized after she suffered unbearable stomach pain. That day, she lay curled up on the hospital bed, and I gently rubbed her stomach over and over to ease her pain. Seeing the beads of sweat on her forehead, I couldn't bear to say a single harsh word. Next time, remember to tell me don't tough it out alone. Okay, be good. Jacqueline squeezed my hand and nodded. I forced a faint smile, trying to appear composed. I told myself in my heart that everything was over and it was time to let go. Oh, this my cousin said it's a trendy spot and asked me to come with him. Cousin, I was surprised by my own ability to catch the key detail. Jacqueline nodded, smiling as she reminisced about their past. She said her cousin had been sent to Europe when he was little. He only returned these past 2 years and without any friend his own age, so she was the only one who could keep him company. My heart suddenly started pounding wildly, a mix of nervousness and hopeful anticipation. That's good. We should exchange contact info. Now, I accidentally lost my previous phone. I steadied my slightly trembling fingers as I took out my phone, fumbling with it, not daring hand it to her until she said okay. I wondered if there was still a chance for us to return to how we once were. But Jacqueline's attitude still made me hesitate. If she had truly moved on, would I even have a chance? But if I didn't try, I would never have any opportunity at all. We said our goodbyes. I watched her figure gradually disappear from my sight, leaving only the trace of that bright red skirt behind. 6 after the competition ended, I took 2 days off planning to spend time with my mom before returning to school. During that holiday, I fell into a vicious cycle of drinking and insomnia. I couldn't sleep because of drinking, and I drank because I couldn't sleep. I feel like I've become someone else later. When mom got sick and was hospitalized, I realized what I'd been doing throughout that entire vacation. Has anything happened recently? You look much happier than before. Peeling an apple, one didn't look up, just smiled. Mom, what are you talking about? I was pretty happy before too. It's different. I didn't know where she saw the difference, but I could only echo her words. I cut the apples and placed them on a plate, then shook the water kettle planning to fetch some water. After just a few steps, I saw Jacqueline. Jacqueline noticed me too and waved her hand. I hurried over in her direction. What brings you to the hospital? Is everything all right? Are you sick? Jacqueline was taken aback for a moment before shaking her head slightly. I breathed a sigh of relief, only to hear her say it was her cousin who had gotten into trouble. Last night, he saw someone harassing a girl and stepped in to help, got a little hurt in the process. Then Jacqueline asked me why I was here. My mother has been sick, receiving treatment here all this time. Jacqueline's hand trembled slightly at her side, her voice somewhat subdued. When was it? 2 years ago that Christmas? Jacqueline's face paled slightly. I shook my head and spoke with a faint smile. It's all in the past. Now, Jacqueline's eyes reddened slightly as her lips parted soundlessly. A clear young voice suddenly rang out, sis, let us go. I told you it's just a minor injury, but you wouldn't believe me. He stopped in front of me with Jacqueline's back turned to him. I saw him poke Jacqueline's back and whisper loud enough for me to hear. Who asked this boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, or her ex-husband? As it went on, his tone grew increasingly less confident. Jacqueline glared up at him, and he shrank back, muttering something under his breath. My mom is probably getting impatient, waiting for me. Want to come see her with me? I shook the water bottle in my hand and asked her with a smile, these past few days, I've smiled more than in the entire 2 years since we broke up. Jacqueline hesitated for a long time before finally nodding. She sent her cousin away, saying since the injury wasn't serious, he could go back by himself. I asked him if her cousin was really going to be okay like that. Jacqueline nodded and said there was a driver waiting downstairs. When we reached the hospital room door, Jacqueline stopped in her tracks. I knew she was hesitating. I've always wanted you to meet my mom before, but never got the chance. Now we're about to though. Jacqueline still stood motionless in place, so I had to give her another push. I need to ask you a favor. Could you pretend to be my girlfriend for a bit? My mom keeps seeing me without a girlfriend and has started wondering if I don't like women at all. It took Jacqueline a long time before she tremblingly placed her hand on the doorknob. Then she suddenly whipped her head back around. I lowered my gaze, amused by the sight of her ears gradually turning red. He wanted to raise his hand to cover it for her, but after a moment's thought, he lowered it again and patted her shoulder instead. What wrong would it be rude if I went empty-handed like this? Not at all, not at all. Let us go, and I reached past her to open the door as if pulling her into an embrace. So all this time, she had just been putting on a brave front. Back already, what took you so long? My mom leaned forward on the bed, suddenly stopping mid-sentence. Her eyes darted between us several times before abruptly motioning for Jacqueline to come sit in my usual spot. I poured a glass of water for my mom, then took 2 apples, found a spot to peel and slice them, and arranged them neatly on a plate. Jacqueline instinctively popped a piece into her mouth. My mom suddenly smiled, even brighter, looking much more lively than usual. Oh my, I always say this, I eat apples whole, but Jackson keeps cutting them into pieces for me, saying it's more convenient this way. Jacqueline's hands paused briefly as she glanced in my direction. I chuckled without saying a word and continued fiddling with what I was holding. I've had this habit for so long that I almost forgot it was Jacqueline who first got me into peeling and slicing apples. Jacqueline was a picky eater with many particular preferences. She once told me that apples with skin didn't taste good, so I started practicing peeling them. I never really liked eating apples myself, so I was quite unskilled at it. At first, when I peeled them, by the time I finished removing the skin, there was almost no apple left. After practicing for a while, I could peel an apple without breaking the skin and cut it into evenly sized pieces. But later, the person who enjoyed eating it this way left, though the habit remained. My mom chatted with Jacqueline for a long time. I noticed Jacqueline's face had relaxed into a smile, no longer uneasy like when she first arrived. So I felt relieved. After all, I'm a man. There are many things she wouldn't tell me. I was worried my presence might make them feel uncomfortable speaking freely, so I stepped outside to give them some space. I stood outside, smoking a cigarette, figuring they'd probably finished their conversation by now. After shaking off the smoke smell, I prepared to go back inside. When I turned around, I got a shock. Jacqueline was standing at the corner. I had no idea how long she'd been there. She stared straight at me. Suddenly, I felt completely flustered, not knowing what to do with my hands or how to stand. When did you start smoking? I never knew about this. She spoke while walking towards me. I immediately took a few steps back and quickly said, "Don't come any closer. I reek of cigarette smoke now, and you hate that smell." Jacqueline paused mid-step, then took a few more before stopping just as I was about to speak again. We stood there frozen for a moment before I suddenly came to my senses. "Why did you come out feeling uncomfortable sorry?" Jacqueline shook her head and said, "No, Annie is very easy to get along with. She was a bit tired and fell asleep." I nodded and only approached Jacqueline after making sure there was no trace of cigarette smell on me. "I'm sorry I'd kept her waiting for so long." Jacqueline still shook her head. I offered to walk her home, but Jacqueline said she wanted to wander a bit longer. I nodded in agreement. On the road, after a long silence, Jacqueline finally spoke. "You learned it that Christmas didn't you?" I knew exactly which Christmas she meant and murmured an affirmation. "But it never became an addiction. I only smoke one when under stress." Jacqueline said a lot, and only then did I realize my mother had told her everything. It was right after the breakup, and I was so heartbroken for some reason the tears just wouldn't stop that day when my mom came over. My eyes were badly swollen. I never expected she'd even tell Jacqueline about that. "I thought you found me too annoying that you couldn't take it anymore and wanted to break up." Jacqueline's voice was slightly choked, carrying a faint sob. To be honest, at first, I really found her annoying because of some silly bet she spent all her study time on me. But Jacqueline was quiet enough. She always sat beside me, so quietly that I couldn't find any reason to send her away. I watched myself sinking, consciously watching myself fall into a trap called Jacqueline. Ever since then, her noise and little tantrums never seemed annoying to me. Everything about her was adorable, not annoying at all. "You're perfect." I looked at Jacqueline and said, "Actually, after you broke up with me that day, I was miserable for a long time. I kept thinking someday I'd win you back and treat you so well that you'd never want to leave me again." Jacqueline's eyes were red and brimming with tears. With a blink, they spilled over her lashes. Flustered, I hastily pulled out a tissue and wiped the tears from her face. Jacqueline was crying so hard, she started hiccuping intermittently. "Then why didn't you reply to any of my messages, or answer any of my calls?" I wanted to pull her into my arms, but didn't dare, so I could only keep handing her one tissue after another to wipe her tears. "Back then I saw you hugging someone else and misunderstood. By the time I thought to ask you about it, you'd already blocked me. I was so upset that I went drinking. Then my mom got sick, and I was too busy during that period. I accidentally lost my phone. When I met Jacqueline again, she just coldly spat out 3 words at me. We're done." Then I watched Jacqueline walk away without looking back. "Because she truly deserves better." Jacqueline cried even harder, and nothing could console her. It wasn't me. I don't know who blocked you. There are too many kids at home. They secretly took my phone to play. I didn't know. Listening to Jacqueline's disjointed words, she explained to me nervously and with a hint of grievance. My heart ached with a dull, throbbing pain. I understood everything, every single word. Jacqueline thought my silence, not replying to her messages or answering her calls, meant I wanted to end things. She believed since she was the one who confessed her feelings, she had to be the one to end it too. I knew Jacqueline. Even though we were only officially together for 6 months, I still understood her. There was never a third person between us. No matter what happened, our world consisted solely of each other. By the time Jacqueline was comforted, the sky had darkened completely. We kept walking forward without any destination in mind. After long, while we passed by a bar, Jacqueline suggested we go in and sit for a while. I nodded in agreement. We spent many times together in this bar that summer. After high school graduation, I worked here as a waiter. The pay at the bar was better than other places. Somehow, Jacqueline found out where I was working part-time and would come keep me company every day. I told her not to come to go home and rest properly, that I'd take her out on weekends, but she wouldn't have it. Every time Jacqueline came, she'd just sprawl across a nearby table watching me the whole time. Sometimes she would fall asleep, and when she did, I would carry her to the staff lounge at the back to rest. Sometimes she would drink, and when she got drunk, I would take leave to send her home. Jacqueline didn't like taking the car when she was drunk, so every time I had to carry her home on my back. Jacqueline would always lean against my back, her soft lips occasionally brushing against my earlobe, and I could feel my ears gradually growing warm. The warmth of her alcohol-laced breath brushed against my neck, making my skin burn. Her voice carried the scent of liquor. Jackson, I really like you so much. I heard my own voice dripping with a sweetness I never usually had. Me too. Jacqueline let out a triumphant laugh. You're so narcissistic. I wasn't talking about you. I like myself. No narcissism here. I was talking about you too. Jacqueline buried her face against my neck and spoke only after a long pause. Oh, her voice was muffled, laced with laughter. Back then, I thought we could keep walking this path forever. Unexpectedly, something went wrong. Jacqueline didn't drink much, but she showed signs of drunkenness, leaning against me in a daze. But I knew she was drunk. Jacqueline mumbled my name indistinctly. Jackson, carry me home. All right. I heard my own voice, hoarse and strained. The streetlights flickered dimly, and few people walked the roads. Jackson, let us get back together. The road was silent. Jacqueline's voice was soft, but I heard it clearly. No, I said. A warm teardrop fell on the side of my neck. I adjusted Jacqueline on my back and asked her, are you sober now? Jacqueline rubbed against my neck, shaking her head wildly. I patted her, signaling her to get down. Her arms around my neck tightened even more. Be good. Jacqueline paused for a long while before slowly loosening her arms from around my neck. I turned to face her, raising my hand to caress her cheek and wipe away her tears. Are you sober now? She still shook her head. Let us be together, Jacqueline. Last time you confessed to me. This time, it's my turn. This isn't very formal. I'll make it up to you tomorrow. Don't cry anymore. Okay. Jacqueline stood on her tiptoes, wrapping her arms around my neck. I reached out to encircle her waist, lifting her up and holding her tightly against my chest. Jacqueline never knew how to say sweet nothings. Whether she was happy or sad, she would always kiss me. But our height difference was too great. No matter how high she stood on her toes, she could never quite reach me. So every time I would bend down upon noticing her intention or lift her up in my arms. When we used a kiss, there was always the fresh sweetness of mint candies. Unlike now, our kisses salty and bitter. I couldn't tell whose tears they were trailing down cheeks and slipping between lips, maybe mine, maybe Jacqueline's. Jacqueline murmured indistinctly, Jackson, I really like you. I raised a hand and rested it on the nape of her neck, gently stroking to comfort her. Yeah, me too. The next day, when it was time to return to school, Jacqueline came to the airport to see me off. She wrapped her arms around my waist and whined, do you have to leave so early? I patted her head and gave a quiet hum in response. We've just reconciled. How could we bear to be apart? She couldn't stand it, and neither could I. Once the exams are over, I'll come back. Right away, I'll stay here for senior year and be with you. Jacqueline still buried her face in my chest without looking up, merely uttering a soft before mumbling under her breath about empty promises. I found it somewhat amusing. Those 2 years of complete silence between us might as well have never happened. Suddenly, Jacqueline raised her head, her eyes gleaming slightly. I asked what was wrong, but she just shook her head mysteriously. As I boarded the plane, I saw Jacqueline waving her arm at me. It wasn't until I arrived at school that I understood why her eyes had been shining that day. I could barely maintain my indifferent facade in front of my classmates when Jacqueline's message came through. Jackson, I've got a surprise for you. Attached was a photo of my academic building with a peace sign flashing in front of the lens. I instinctively glanced out the window just as another message popped up. Jackson, look out the window. Jacqueline waved her hand, gazing in my direction. I wanted to hug her now, immediately, right, this moment the voice in my heart urging me on. I stood up at once and walked to the door whispering to the professor as I passed that I was going to the restroom. Then I dashed outside, my heart pounding as if it might leap out of my chest. I ran into Anna walking in as I was about to head out. "Jackson, I think I'm feeling a bit sick, could you?" Her stopping me irritated me, and my tone turned rather brusque. "Classmate, I study law, not medicine. If you're sick, go to the hospital. What do you want from me? Need me to reimburse you? Also move aside, you're blocking my girlfriend." Jacqueline was right outside the door. I saw her. I nudged Anna aside, gently, careful not to push too hard in case she decided to make a scene. When I lifted Jacqueline in my arms, she still seemed dazed. "Why do you come down? Don't you have class? Missed you so much terribly." I pulled Jacqueline to the dormitory building and settled her in asking her to wait for me. I opened the long locked cabinet in my dorm and took out the ungiven bag inside. Afraid she might grow impatient, I rushed back down. "Take your time, no hurry." Bent over with hands on my knees, catching my breath, Jacqueline gently patted my back. "I can't wait to see you." I reached out and handed over the bag in my hand. "This was something I wanted to give you 2 years ago. Never thought it'd take this long to finally give it to you. The style must be outdated by now." It was a simple red dress. "I thought this dress should be yours. We'll go buy a new one later." Jacqueline held the dress, her voice slightly hoarse. "No need, just this one. I really like it." I chuckled softly. We'll keep this one, but we'll buy the others too." I pulled out the box ID, just tucked it in my pocket. "One more gift. Will you marry me, Jacqueline?" The box had been kept in perfect condition. These rings, I bought them not long after freshman year. During break, when I'd written some programs and earned a bit of money at that time, I felt endlessly grateful that the world had given me a brain smart enough to keep making foolish mistakes in matters of the heart. Back then, I thought we could get married right after starting college. Hadn't even considered trivial things like legal age requirements. "You're such a fool, already thinking about marriage back then." I agreed with her, saying, yes, I was indeed a fool. I asked Jacqueline if she was willing. Jacqueline lifted her chin slightly and said crisply no. She was getting back at me for that night. When I said no, then what should I do to make you say yes? Jacqueline put on a thoughtful expression and spoke slowly. "This is a major life decision. I need to think it through carefully." I nodded immediately. "All right, I'll wait for you to decide. But it might take me a very long time. What if I never figured it out in my entire life?" "I'll wait for you my whole life." Then it was childish. But coming from her, that childishness was endearing. 11. The confession was simple, just one sentence. The proposal was simple too, just a ring and a dress from 2 years ago. I promised her the grandest wedding imaginable. Jacqueline said, "I was all talk and no action." We got married 3 years after graduating college. That day, we obtained our marriage certificate and invited many guests. Because we never had the wedding ceremony, we never went to get the marriage certificate. Jacqueline scolded me, saying even a marriage proposal was just empty promises. The wedding was grand because I wanted everyone I knew to witness my love. At night, Jacqueline still wore that ring and a new red dress identical to the one from before. Jacqueline sat on the edge of the bed, propping her chin with one hand as she tilted her head and spoke with a beaming smile. "Hey, I heard your name is Jackson and mine S. Jacqueline. What a coincidence. It'd be a shame if we didn't tee up together." These are the first words Jacqueline said when she came to see me. She sat across from me, one hand supporting her chin in the sunlight, making the girl glow with confidence and radiance. "Hey, I heard your name is Jackson and mine S. Jacqueline too. What a coincidence. It'd be such a waste if we didn't get together." I remember my reaction at the time. I knew I was her bet, and I didn't even bat an eye. Now I reach out my hand, making up for my younger self from that year. Yes, what a coincidence. The kind of fate meant for a lifetime together. The end.